What's up, everyone? It's your host, Jonah. Welcome back to the Blue Collar Enlightenment Show. And if you're new, thanks for tuning in. Smash that follow button so you don't miss any new episodes.
Hey everybody, it's your co-host T. Today we are talking with Megan and Steve, the crew from For the Booze, a paranormal podcast.
I met Steve on live Twitter Spaces, and we have become good friends. Welcome to the podcast, you two. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Great. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're here.
Well, we're doing great. It's been a long day.
It really has.
But I've been excited for this.
Jonah had to remind me because I forget. And he's like, waits until like 2 hours before. And he's like, are you ready to record? I'm like, oh,
you're like, wait,
yeah.
what?
We're recording.
We were on the other side of that. We thought we were going to have like 3 hours of interviews tonight. Yep. We lucked out and we only had to do one tonight. So we're good to go.
Yeah, we're ready.
He said that. He said that you're going to be overbooked next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
we get through.
Uh-huh.
And just so everybody I just want to let everybody know that she's lying. I told her last night and then at like 11 o'clock this morning.
Sound like us.
But you didn't tell me. Yes, I did.
We just had this conversation earlier.
We did.
Yeah. I don't believe him, but
I understand. We had the twins' birthday party.
I know. Y'all are complete opposites of us.
Oh God.
Oh, so let's get this going. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I am a mom of 4, and I work at a restaurant. And
super server over here.
Yeah, I have been married to this guy for
too long.
A long time. We met later in life, and it's probably been some of the best years of my life.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm Steve. Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm just your average guy. You know, I went through life making a lot of mistakes, and then I met the right one, and here we are. And yeah, best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Well, hold on. I gotta back it up. But then I met Jonah.
Yeah.
Oh.
You can't leave that.
No.
Spent all over from there.
I was about to say, was that the best thing to happen? Or
I would consider that the best thing that ever happened in his life.
It's questionable.
Okay, anyway.
No, I mean, I guess pertaining to like what we actually do, show-wise, when I met her, I've always been very, very much into the paranormal. And it started years and years ago. It wasn't really a documentary at the time. It was a guy who was posting clips online. And I may be wrong, but in my head, this is the timeline. It was the early 2000s, and there were these videos going around called the Pantry Ghost. And there's some people out there will probably know what I'm talking about. But when I look it up, it's hard to find the original clips. You find it's in like 2007, I think, where they put it together as a documentary. But that kind of like planted the seed. And then when Ghost Hunters came out that first season, it hooked me. And then years later, when I met Megan, we kind of had this thing in common where we really like to watch paranormal shows. Mm-hmm. And for years, we just watched them. And I had started listening to podcasts about 5 years ago. And I finally got her on it. And then we just kind of came up with this idea of like, well, we spend all our free time watching these shows. Like, let's start a podcast and talk about it. That's really love it.
And it's not like, we want to be paranormal investigators. I mean, like, I totally go on an investigation, but there's so much skepticism, one side or the other, or in the middle, and we just kind of, he's a little more skeptical than I am. I am a full believer. And
she's a little bit country, I'm a little bit rocking.
Was a very true statement. And I don't know, we just kind of wanted to see where it would go and how it would roll, and it kind of turned into our show, and we love it.
Sounds like our way of life.
Yeah.
That's really what it's become.
Well, that's pretty awesome. That's about like us. We didn't really know we liked, we had that in common, I think, for like a year.
Podcast?
No, paranormal stuff.
Oh, paranormal stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Only because people are so skeptical, you don't really want to bring it up.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
that's the nature of it, right? Like, it's so captivating and so interesting because there is so much controversy around it. Nobody really knows whether or not it's real. So we're always looking for the answer. But I think that's what makes it intriguing because there isn't.
Yeah.
So we're always looking for it. Everybody's trying to either be skeptical and prove against it, or they're trying to search for the evidence to prove it. And I think that's kind of what is the glue that binds it to like modern pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys cover within the realm of paranormal in your podcast?
Well, we cover anywhere from YouTube channels and people that go out and base their channels on paranormal findings and things like that. Some are more legit than the other extreme that are not.
We have to be both, right? Because you can't just be one-sided. We have a podcast. I mean, we are one-sided in our lives. But when we're trying to shine a spotlight on the entirety of the paranormal community, you have to be fair. You have to cover the ones that you might not like or you might not think are being honest and truthful, and then you got to cover the ones you feel are. But I think beyond that, we've kind of grown. It's kind of like morphed into this. We do more of our preference. We do YouTube channels, television show like investigations,
network TV.
We had always talked about doing documentaries, but there's so few that I think those are going to kind of be special in between. But what we focused on mostly is haunted locations because we really enjoy the research that comes along with them and the history behind them and the stories about them. And there's a lot of them. I mean, let's be real. There's way more to talk about. But it's become more of I feel like we could almost put it in the travel section of like podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Because we tend to focus more on haunted locations or claims.
Yeah, well, and I mean, those are our favorites because there's so many extremes to a location. You get the history behind it because a lot of them are very, very old. So there's different, eras of history that have happened over time, and you have all that part.
So we did one down in serial killer. Well, I think serial.
Yes, but there's so many things to a location, and we thoroughly enjoy doing those.
Yeah, so it's kind of become more about haunted or claims of haunted locations. It's the one I think we enjoy doing the most, so that's the one we focus on. But basically, anything paranormal, we just took a super long way around it, just being like paranormal.
So, what is one place y'all would love to go and do an investigation on? And with what paranormal group?
Ooh, paranormal group, dude. I think that's what's coming. I'm gonna let you go.
I don't know because I'm torn. I know right off.
You want to do it
no, I'm good.
I feel like y'all want to go with Zach Baggas.
That's what I just done.
I'm good.
His little giggle.
Well, we have this running gag on our show. We pick on Zach Baggins a lot.
Yes.
I know. That's why I brought him up.
He's a living meme. Like he's a paranormal meme of himself. But good. All right.
Normal meme.
All right. So I want to set the it's dark. So they buy wherever you want, whoever. And don't say me. You gotta pick a real group.
I think I'd have to go with Waverly Hills.
I knew it.
I would. I think that is one of the biggest places, the most talked about places. And as far as who with, I probably want to go with Amy and Adam from Kindred Spirits.
That's right. That's pretty cool.
What about you?
I'm going to be torn. I also would like to go to Waverly Hills, but there's actually a place I'm going to. It's Taunton State Hospital. I would want to hit the lower level tunnels of Taunton State Hospital, and I'd honestly like to go with either our friends Ben and Amber at East Coast Paranormal or Paranormal Nightmare Television. That place had of all the places that we know about, and especially talked about on our show, that place has the darkest history. And I used to live right across the street from it and never could get on to go check it out, but That's where I would want to go.
Nice.
Waverly Hills definitely comes in for a second, though. I would definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I would go
That's
there in
up
a
there.
heartbeat.
That's up there.
What about you, Jonah?
Where would you go?
Where would you go?
Where would I go?
And with whom?
Probably East Coast Paranormal. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah,
They are. Yes.
I don't know, babe. You go first.
Book.
I honestly don't know because I don't really think about that so much as I do watch a lot of like paranormal shows, but I haven't
What's your
ever
favorite
thought
show?
about
What's your favorite one?
So I've been watching a lot of the Discovery Channel shows lately. So I think the last one I watched was Paranormal Caught on Camera, and it has a lot of alien stuff in it. And
That one.
but yeah, I don't think I would necessarily want to go anywhere haunted.
Well, I know that Ben from last podcast on the left is on there. He would be fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
Man, I would want to go to the Winchester House if I really had to choose.
That's a good one.
All the
super
stories
weird
that you hear from that place, you would have to. You would figure that during your evening there that something would happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that place, I think, has so many like twists, turns, and like weird things to it. I think like mentally, I know, and I think mentally, like it could throw you off and like kind of make things even stronger in a way. I guess.
Yeah, because it would
Matt
weaken
Baggins
your...
in like 2007 opened a portal. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
So, but
Sorry, her face when you said that, she was like, yeah, sure, what the fuck.
Yeah, it was like a special they did way back. But who would you go with, Jonah? Who would be your paranormal?
Oh man, you're gonna hate my answer, but I'm gonna go with Zach Baggins just because I know that he's gonna make it 10 times more entertaining than anybody else.
You know what? I won't disagree with that.
That's a true statement.
I would probably laugh my ass off.
Oh, dude, I would be looking at him like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Well, don't worry, because even if nothing's happening, he'll make sure that it feels like something's happening. Be like, whoa, I feel something.
But the bad part about it is I would be that dude behind him, like throwing rocks, trying to get a reaction out of him. So that would, yeah.
What was that?
I feel so angry.
Oh,
Sorry.
awesome. Yep.
Oh,
Who would
my
you
God.
go with, babe? Who would you, what paranormal team would you want to go with?
So honestly, I've been listening to this podcast like I'm super hooked on their podcast. Only because I'm super hooked on their podcast, I would want to go with them. But have you ever heard of Murder in America?
Yeah, that's Colin from Paranormal Files. We did an episode on them.
I love their podcast.
Yep.
So
Have you ever watched the channel?
I haven't. Well, because
You should check it out.
I'm either listening to podcast or I'm like really distracted with our kids. So I don't do a whole lot of actually watching anything. So
If you ever get a chance, they're Paranormal Files on YouTube, and it's actually pretty good. And they actually do some bleed over, like they do some of the Murder in America like stuff on that show.
It's really good channel.
they have
We
said
know it.
that they've went and investigated some of the sites that they talk about the murder. So
They did like a 7-parter on the Jeffrey Dahmer case when they covered it on the podcast.
yeah, I actually just listened to the Jeffrey Dahmer. Like I started their whole podcast over because I was like going back and forth different episodes. So
I've
I
listened to
actually
every
went back
episode.
and started from their first podcast all the way. I think I'm up with like 60, honestly.
I rounded it out when I found out about it. I started listening to it, and I've listened to them all. I think you would really like their channel. If you ever get a chance, you should check it out.
Yeah, they did. They had, their Corpsewood Manor episode with the two guys who went out into the woods and like built their castle out there by hand or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the video of him going out to like the rubble before he even knew about what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Before all this, though, sorry, I'm going to bring it back to the news. I still cannot find the original show that he was supposed to be on, Teen Spirit.
Oh, I know.
I still can't find it.
It's weird.
I gotta find that. And whatever it was called, the Verizon Go network from 90. Like this is what we do.
Have you guys ever had paranormal experiences yourselves?
Yes.
What-
Many
Can you? Can
Yes,
you?
next question.
Elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. I'm pretty sure you have better ones. I have ones. Actually, no, I'll go first. You save your good ones.
Oh, okay.
That place that I said I'd go to over at Taunton State Hospital, it was about 2000, 2001, and partying with my cousins and friends and stuff. And I actually lived, when you left my front door, it was directly across the street. And this was in my party days, so I was doing drugs and stuff, but I still remember what was going on. And I don't know, the drugs that I was on had me wandering. And I went over and I actually passed out in the field by this glass corridor that if you ever look up Taunton State, it's usually the first picture that comes up. If you go on our Twitter, on our For the Blues Twitter, the banner picture, that's inside that corridor. But I passed out in the field right there, and I remember waking up about an hour later. And when I looked up, now this building had been abandoned for 30 years. I saw a lady walk. She was walking down the corridor, and she just looked at me. And then she just looked away from me and just kept walking into the building. And that was it. But it really like changed me, because that's when I was like, I never really had an experience like that before. So that's what really, that, and the changing of pop culture with those hunters and stuff, all that really like solidified my interest in the paranormal. And I've had some other like small ones, like even here at the house. People listen to the show. We have stuff that happens here.
Mm-hmm.
I see shadow figures running like down by the front door, by the bathroom, heads poking out. I was laying in bed one night, and I know I wasn't dreaming, but I was like in that half asleep state, and I heard somebody whisper into my ear, "Get up." And I woke up, and it scared the shit out of me, because I sat right up like I thought it was you.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it's been a lot of shadow figures, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about you, Megan?
Yeah, I started having experiences when we lived in Texas. It was like the early 90s. I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, and we lived in this house. I'm a military brat, so we lived on like base housing, and we had this really long hallway that all the bedrooms were off of, the bathroom, and my bedroom was all the way down at the end of the hallway, and the bathroom was closer up to the front. And multiple times a day, a week, a lot. You get that you watch a scary movie and go and shut off the lights to go to bed, and you feel like something's behind you feeling. I get it all the time. But I was super young, and like I didn't know like what that meant. And I'd see stuff like out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm just tired, whatever. Because I was little, and I was pushing into my teen years. We had moved to Florida. I've been here for a long time. And I kept thinking about like those experiences and what happened there. So I started doing some research, and come to find out there was an officer who lived in that house about 10 years before us who had killed himself in that bathroom in the house that we lived in. And that, I don't know, I've always had experiences.
What was that like on?
At your mom's house.
This is where she was pregnant the first time.
Yeah, I was super pregnant. I was laying in bed taking a nap, and I thought his mom was home. He was at work, and I was facing the wall, but there was like a walkway between the bed and the wall, and I was laying right on the edge of the bed. And all of a sudden, I hear someone just say my name right in my face. So I like flew open my eyes, and I like jumped out of bed when I realized nobody was there. I went out, looked, like no one was home. Literally no one. And then 15 minutes later, his mom walks in the door, and I'm like, hey, where were you? So I'm still freaking out. And she's like, oh, I just got back from the grocery store. You want to come help me unload the car? I was like, what?
Well, to make it even like more, like she's been having a lot of activity. Now, my mom was one who never really believed in it. And now that she's kind of alone in that house, everybody's gone.
Yep.
And I don't know what they're doing there, but she's been having activity to the point where I think she went to get up off the couch and something pushed her over.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had some experiences.
Yeah. I saw a full lady,
full body apparition
walk by. Like, I was once I had the baby and we were like getting ready to leave, Stephen was in the bathroom and I saw a woman. She had really long, dark hair. It was like, it was like kinky, almost like the 80s style, like kinked hair, like waist length. She was wearing a white sweater, 3/4 length sleeve. I'll never forget it. She had jeans on. She just like walked down the hallway towards the bathroom where he was. And that is nowhere near what his mother looks like. I've never seen anyone that looks like that.
I got her out of the bathroom one day.
But I just like, and then as soon as she passed by, Stephen came out of the bathroom. And I was like, did you just see like what? Because she would have walked like right in front of the door that he came out of. It was just so weird.
Really weird. I remember that.
So weird.
She was super convinced something had happened.
Yeah,
I remember I was just in the bathroom coming out.
Like, what
it's
is
very
going
weird. Yes.
Yeah, that'd freak me the fuck out.
Uh-huh.
I'd be like, nah, out.
I'd be like, out. Bye.
Later.
Yeah.
I'll see you at the house.
I've been touched and all kinds of stuff.
Well,
I couldn't even like put it all in
And
the story.
you've heard me talk about it, like this closet behind it. I know people can't see this. It's a video thing, but I see things in this closet. And when you walk in this closet, not so much on this side, but on this side, it goes back and to like a room. Like it was added on or something. I don't
So
know.
it's like a regular closet with a walk-in closet added onto the side of it.
But you get this super weird feeling when you go in there, like something's about to touch you, or like you're going to turn around and somebody's going to be there. And it's always like that.
You sit there had to tell me that while I'm looking into the closet right
You're
now.
like waiting to see
I'm sitting here like, let me see something.
I'm watching it,
Let me see something.
but I'm used to it. But shut up.
Yeah, as it comes out the closet, the doors just swing open.
Hands come down the closet like.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, now the whole time. You told me that.
That's all he's gonna look at.
That's all I'm gonna be focusing right in that little crack, right there, hoping something pops up.
I'll open it. Here, you ready?
There you go. Now if you see somebody walk by,
Like,
I can't. My chair's in the way.
it was loud. Oh God, I can't reach it. Okay, there we go.
That's awesome. Oh, Lord have mercy. Visually seeing ghosts and hearing them and stuff, that's probably the most legit evidence you could come across during your research for your podcast. What is some of the most legit evidence you've seen?
I already know my answer. Early on in Ghost Hunters, they went to the St. Augustine Lighthouse, and it was a kind of the way I feel is that it was the evidence that sprouted all paranormal television shows. It was so good, and it was deemed so authentic that nobody even questioned its legitimacy.
Yeah.
And there's I don't know, are you familiar with the lighthouse in St. Augustine, Florida?
Yeah, I watched that episode and I'm thinking back to it now.
Don't worry, I'm going to bring it up. The lighthouse is huge. It is like 200 feet. And when they went there, I don't remember who was in there. It might have been Grant, but somebody was in there. And they kept hearing a noise from up top. And they were filming up there. And you could see in the shadows a figure lean over the edge, look down at them, and go back. But it was so prominent that they all ran up there because they thought somebody was up there. And it was that piece of evidence, in my opinion, that almost created the need for paranormal television shows.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still feel like that is the strongest, one of the strongest, because there's another one. There's a thing. That is probably the strongest piece of evidence to this day.
Yeah. I think I'd have to say, I don't know, EVPs, like what you were going to say earlier, because like you're on just a recorder. It's a voice recorder, and it just sits there and it literally just picks up sounds.
Let me ask
But
you
like,
something, though, if you had to think of a specific EVP, What would be the one that would come to mind? Because I have one of those too. And it was, but there was an episode where they were like in the desert and they picked up his voice and they actually played the recording side by side with the film clip. And he asked a question and a scream came through.
Yeah.
And a legitimate scream. And I don't know why that always stuck with me because I don't think it was that long ago, but it's pretty substantial.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's kind of hard to fake too.
Well, it's hard when you put a film clip side by side.
Because visually you're seeing it. You know no one is talking and no one hears it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the recorder picks up a voice.
Absolutely. But there was also another piece of evidence from early ghost hunters, and it was either Missouri State or Eastern State Penitentiary, one of those, where they're set up on the walkway and like the D block or somewhere like that, and nobody's even there. They just have the camera set up, and a figure like shoots forward, appears, and then just shoots back and disappears.
Yeah.
And they tried so many times to recreate this, like dressing somebody up. And no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't recreate it. And then they even went a step farther, and they took that piece of evidence and they sent it off to have it authenticated and enhanced quality-wise. And no matter what they did, they couldn't recreate it and they couldn't figure it out. So I think those two are some of the best clips of evidence that we've ever had, in my opinion. I'm sure that there are unknown groups out there that have amazing stuff, but I just haven't seen it.
I think thermal cameras as well are something. There's something to them. Like you can see normal people, the heat signatures and all that. And
I think we're just a fan of all.
Yeah,
all
I know.
But yeah, I like where you're going with that. Because it's kind of hard to deny a heat signature or a cold signature from what they're showing that.
Especially when you're pointing a regular camera there. There's literally no one standing there, but there's something.
Yeah, what was it? Destination Fear.
Yep.
Remember that? Where they were... I don't remember. But they caught that figure, and but where it came out of the wall, there was no door.
Yeah,
it was.
There was nowhere to walk.
But it was definitely.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot of really good evidence out there.
Didn't Ghost Hunters? They had an episode out where they did. What war site was that? And they had a thermal camera, and it's panned over, and they had it looked like a Civil War soldier walking across the screen.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, that was a Gettysburg.
Yeah.
I think it was because they were panning past that.
It was like a cannon.
The cannon and the whole wagon set up for the cannon.
Yep, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
yep.
that was a good episode. I liked that one.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. It's pretty good. I mean, early Ghost Hunters had a lot of really good stuff. They did. I mean, they inevitably sold out because they're a television show. I mean, we talk about it on our show all the time. It's the unfortunate, thing that happens to people who get a television deal because you have to abide by ratings, and if you don't have ratings, you can't have a television show. So at some point, you're going to have to fake something, or because you're never going to be able to produce that much evidence. It's unrealistic. If you really believe in the paranormal, you know that's just unrealistic. Yeah,
you can't just walk in somewhere anytime, any place, doesn't matter, and stuff's going to be going crazy. It's just, it doesn't happen that way.
Exactly. It's not an on-command thing. So to think that once a week, every week, a team shows up in a place for one night of all things, and they get, a cornucopia of evidence. It just doesn't happen like that. So
I've been in a lot of spooky places with my job, especially nursing homes. I got a story for you if you want to hear it about nursing home. But I've been in a warehouse that's was 100 years old. Creepiest place you'd be. Wasn't haunted. There's nothing in there. Freaked everybody else out, but I did ask a paranormal group. I was like, what do you think the percentage of buildings that you would come across would be haunted? And he said it would be low. So low.
It'd be very low.
Yeah, because it's so rare that it actually happens. You can't just walk in and flip a switch and decide that it's going to happen.
Yeah, you're like, hey, there's ghosts now. Like, it just...
And even, all right, let's say that let's narrow that down even further, right? So let's say 15% of places that are thought to be haunted have activity, okay? of those 15%, maybe 0.25% of those will happen on the day that you show up, if that. So to think that there's, I don't know, 50 YouTube channels and 7 major television shows that all get crazy amounts of activity for one night every week, it's unrealistic. It's never going to happen.
And I think that's why, like, on our show, when we kind of like break down the is it real part of our show, because there are those, especially YouTube side of things, channels that'll go in somewhere, like they, get a call from someone and they're like, oh, my house is haunted, and they actually go into their home. And I think it adds legitimacy when they're like, yeah, we didn't find anything.
Yeah, they don't find anything.
Like, we tried. I'm sorry. But, and I think that adds a level of legitimacy.
Well, and they usually tell them too,
groups.
like, just because we didn't find anything doesn't necessarily mean there's nothing here. It just means nothing happened tonight.
Right.
So they'll go back or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, because I believe that if you're going to be doing that, the ghost itself is going to be attracted to the person, to the energy.
Or it could be, it could be anything, right? It could be the time of year, the time of day, it could be a climate thing. It could be so many things. So to think that all because you walked in with a couple camcorders and a recorder of some kind, that it's going to show up, it's not realistic.
Yeah.
And we try to keep that in mind when, like what Megan was saying about the is it real portion of our show. We try to remember that, right? Because there are a lot of shows that we really like that we still kind of spoke against a little bit, I guess, that we
have to question it too.
You have to. Because it's not possible. And I think anybody who really is paranormal knows this. So if you know this and you watch a show, you kind of go into that knowing. Like, you'll be able to kind of see the ones that feel more legit.
Yeah.
Or, you can kind of tell. But it's just not possible, man. It really isn't. It's not possible. The percentage is so low that I even think that most of the evidence that we see, a percent of it is probably real.
But are we going to continue watching? Absolutely.
Of course we are.
It's all about entertainment.
That's what I was about to say. It's so funny that these people go in these haunted places or whatever to investigate, but then when something does happen or something startles them, they like act like little girls and freak out. Like, you're going in this with all intentions of something happening to you. Why are you reacting like that?
I feel like during the show, if you pay attention close enough to these people and if you watch them long enough, you can tell the difference between when they're trying to fake it and when they're trying to be, when they're actually like, oh shit, that was actually something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yep. And you can, and sometimes you can even tell, like, when all right, so like if you watch a show, like, in my opinion, Ghost Adventures, that does fake a lot of evidence, you can tell when something legitimate happens because there's a change in the reaction that they give to something happening.
Yes.
Right. So I think that's why we watch it, because you're still getting the possibility of real evidence. You just kind of got to pick it out of all the rest of it. But it is happening.
Yeah.
It's just how much of the other stuff you want to sit there and say it.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people can fake it nowadays because those new, you can take a shot of something before and then have a dude dressed up in a little green suit and then run through and throw something.
Well, I mean, if anybody shows up in a little green suit, I'm instantly calling bullshit.
So, okay, here's a good, I want to know y'all's thoughts on this piece of evidence. And it's the most famous from the Ghost Adventures crew. They used it in their intro. The brick flying and the board getting the board falling.
I think that's real. I think that's real.
Do you?
I do. Wow. I think that's real. That was pretty early on. Yeah. And I've actually seen other cases of evidence of people who aren't even ghost hunters who have that same phenomenon happen. There was a video, I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't a TV show. It was a YouTube video. And it wasn't a ghost hunter. It was an explorer video.
Yeah.
And he never saw it happen. But as you're watching it, he's walking through. And there's 2 different times where a brick and a board move across the floor without him noticing. and it was only picked up because somebody else watching it saw it.
Yeah. It's like an Urbex Explorer.
Yes, it was an Urbex.
channel.
It was an Urbex
Yep.
video. And it's like an older one. So, I mean, I've seen videos where what I think is legitimate times that that's happened has happened. And I do believe that in the beginning, I read a lot about this stuff. And Zach Baggins, like people from where he's from, often mention that like he really was the weird guy. Like he really was into this. Before he made it famous, he was just this guy, Zach, who made documentary, right? Because Ghost Adventures didn't start out as a television show. It was a one-off documentary that the Travel Channel released, or I actually think it was Sci-Fi at the time.
It was.
And that kind of like steamrolled it in. But for the first couple seasons, you gotta remember that Zach wasn't the guy he is now. He was enthusiastic about this. He loved it. And a lot of these shows, they start off in the first few seasons where they're real investigators. They really want to find evidence, but then they get the TV mentality. They get the money. They get a little bit of the fame. They start going, they get invited to conventions and stuff. And then it becomes more of like you're an actor. But I do believe like that piece of evidence. And I think that there are some more from the beginning days, a lot of the sounds and stuff like that. I think they're all legit. I really do.
Yeah.
And look, I could be wrong. This is paranormal. If it wasn't, it would just be called ghost facts or something. It wouldn't be paranormal anymore. But I do believe that there is a lot of stuff that we see that is legit. But I mean, there's always going to be an air of skepticism when it comes to it because of all the people who fake stuff. So
yeah, I only questioned you because I actually thought you were going to say that it was fake, but I do believe that it's real as well. I mean, that poltergeist kind of activity it's a lot and it's a big thing, but I think it happens more often than people think it does.
And I just think because I've seen something so similar in some other things that weren't trying to find that kind of stuff.
Right.
That wasn't the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I'm going to go off on a little thing here. When Josh found a dead body.
Yeah.
He was an urban explorer who gained nothing from this. He just found a body.
Yeah.
Right. It's one of those things. It's finding something that you're not looking for. It really gives it a legitimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not what you're looking for. And a lot of the times these videos that I'm talking about, they don't find it. It's not them. They post this video and a year later, somebody else sees it.
Right.
They find it.
Yeah.
So to me, that makes it more legitimate. In my
opinion.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. So I know I went way off, but I can't.
I got to wrap my head around this for a second.
Are you too high now?
That's a lot to take in at one moment. I get to that.
Well, I mean,
I kind of do that. I'll be like, oh, shit. That's me.
Do you watch, do you ever watch Urban Explorer videos?
Yeah, I like to watch the abandoned places. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. That's what I'm talking about. There's guys like that, videos like that, where they're not ghost hunting. They're exploring abandoned buildings. They are just looking at. They're just exploring. They're not equipped to find ghost activity. That is not what they're doing. The only reason they have a camera is because that's how they support the channel, saying, "Hey, this is what the inside of this place looks like." So when they go in there and with their camera in the corner of the room where nobody's even really shooting, you see somebody walk by, or you see that board fly or that brick move, or they catch that voice or something, but they don't notice it, right? It's never mentioned. It's never mentioned until somebody weeks, months, years catches it in that video.
Yeah.
How would we say that was fake? Because they gained nothing off of it, because they said they never even claimed to have been like, hey, you got to watch this. There's something paranormal on here. They didn't even know, right? So to me, that's like the ultimate legitimacy. If you find something on accident, to me, that's the ultimate.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate.
Yeah. I would have to say, of all the places in the world, nursing homes would have to be the most haunted places ever. 100%.
I would. What about prisons? What about sanatoriums?
No.
What about? Well, why not? Sanatoriums had 100. What was it? What did Waverly Hills have? How many people died in there?
Oh my God.
60,000 people.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous like that. Where they had to build a body chute to take people out so that other people wouldn't see at the rate of other people were dying.
Well, why would you say that nursing homes?
Because
would
there's
be?
so many. There's so many. And I deal with nursing homes all the time. And I come home all the time and say shit happens, don't I? Every time I go to a nursing home, something little happens to me. The biggest thing that happened to me, the last one, I walked in, I was following one of the guys to get a broom to clean up my mess. As I turned around, on the side of me, it was like walking into a freezer, you know, those little plastic things that dangle down in front of doors. Something black, okay? It was just all black. Real quick, boom, right through it. They started floating. I turn around, the dude's face is white as crap. I said, "Did you see that?" And he said, "Nope." And I said, "Bro, you're lying to me because your face says something different." He said, "Nope, let's just move along." And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Because the plastic on the door sitting there walking back and forth. It like somebody walked through it. And I was just like, I walk out of there, I give my apprentice the broom, and I stand there for a second. I'm like, I'm trying to process what was going on, and that dude just being like, "Nope, nothing happened, just move along." And I'm like, something fucking happened.
Yeah. Wow.
I would never argue that nursing homes wouldn't be a good contender for a spot to be haunted. Don't get me wrong. But they're generally pretty small. And while they do have a lot of deaths, and I think the saddest part about them is really like you end up with forgotten people who died.
Yeah.
Right? So people who they don't just pass, they pass very sad. But I think it really comes down to the sanatoriums, like the Waverlys and stuff like that, like St. Albans, where, I mean, people literally went there to die, and by the hundreds, by the thousands.
And were tortured.
By the tens of thousands. Yeah, people who were boiled to death. You should listen to the Taunton State episode.
Let me throw another little tidbit in there. Okay. Because I see a lot of these older people, they're not only just taken out of their element and thrown into this community that they know nobody. Okay, they're also going senile and very lonely people. So that in itself, I think the loneliness and the sorrow of this is what my life has turned to creates such an energy that I think it just manifests itself. When I'm up in the attics, I feel at ease. Like you would feel like you're happy, you know, because I'd get up there. And sometimes I would, you feel like you're about to get overheated. There was actually one time I thought I was about to fall through the hole. I'd lost my slip, and it felt like somebody had grabbed me and pushed me back up. Yes.
Wow.
You better not bring any of this shit home with you.
Well, that's the thing, because...
Just saying, if I go to walk down our hallway and I see an old man or an old lady standing at the end of it, I'm going to freak the fuck out.
I'm just saying that if these paranormal investigators wanted to go investigate these places, I don't think they would have a poltergeist experience at all. I think they would have some very compelling evidence, but I don't think it would be evil in any way.
Well, if you look it up, there's been a lot of nursing home investigation. I can't remember any of the names of the big ones, but I know Ghost Adventures have been quite a few. There was even like a big like 2-part place where I think it was half of it was shut down, but half of it was still in use, and they were running the other half as a haunted house during Halloween, and they caught some pretty good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then the other one was where some lady, I think, was like basically like a low-grade serial killer. She was like a nurse. She was what they call like an angel of death.
Yeah. And people would be like, okay, I'm ready to go. And she would come in and either like willingly give these people things to end their lives. And she did it with multiple people.
Jane Talton State.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of experiences in nursing homes. I'm just saying.
I don't think Dee wants you to bring it home.
I just think that it's not like something like, as people who watch a lot of paranormal stuff, I don't ever like, that's not one of the first things that pops into my mind, but I absolutely would agree that there would be stuff there. I mean, that energy that's left behind, the sadness, the loneliness, I
think what we find,
really, the end of life.
It's like prisons in Santa Florida where people not only got put away and died, but a lot of them died from like brutal death.
Yeah.
Torturous death.
Mm-hmm.
Satanic cult death.
Yeah.
So once you add past like you're just old and die, like we've covered a lot of stuff where there's a lot more torturous death than people think there is. That's happened in this country. Like in a place where you're supposed to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that lends to like the unfinished business aspect, or like the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the things didn't go right, so I have to stick around, or something like that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying about those nursing homes. I mean, just one day your life just changes. You're not in your home every day. You're getting these processed meals. It's a weird thing. Anyway, let's get off this
it's really
subject.
Moving on.
So what's the future for the booze?
I don't know. I think we started out, we didn't really kind of know what we were going to do, and it's kind of formed into something that we thoroughly enjoy doing. It may change a little. I would really love to be able to one day go on location and record some episodes. That would be amazing. But right now, that's just not a thing. That's a dream for us to be able to do. But I think we've kind of found our groove, and I really think we're just going to roll with it now.
I think adding on to what she said, I think the future is like, we'd really like to pick up some sponsors that would allow us to not only record on location, but like maybe with listeners and stuff, and maybe do like little investigations with our listeners.
Oh, that'd be great.
Doing fun stuff like that. I would love to be able to do like merchandise, but like shirts that we can give away to people, stuff like that. I think it would be fun. I really would like to see our show be the one that like, and not necessarily takes all the money, but like gives it to the listeners in some way. I think that would be awesome.
That would be
or donating to like Waverly Hills or something. Something like that. We gotta save the paranormal community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be interesting for y'all to get into video podcasting on top of going on location and recording and talking about the history of the place and record while you're doing it and see if anything happens. That would be freaking awesome.
Yeah, I think if we were to do like an on location thing, we would do an episode like with all the history, but then we'd add in like the aspect of like an investigation part.
I think if we got to
a video format with it,
where we were able to do a location thing, I think we'd be at a point where we'd be able to do our podcast plus a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
like kind of like how Paranormal Files does.
Right.
So I think that's what it would end up being. Like we'd have some kind of investigation show or channel.
Something.
That's talking about like making it a career, which I mean I'm for, but we need the people to review the show and help us out. We can't make it happen on our own. I mean, we love doing it. We're gonna do it either way.
Yes.
This has become our date night. This is like what we do together.
Yeah.
So we love it.
That's the same for us.
I see you guys. Same for you. I saw that.
This is the only time we get together.
Yep.
It's hard when you have kids, and you get older, and going out to bars and clubs isn't really a thing anymore. So you find that common ground and you enjoy doing it together. So you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked about doing a little kind of show episodes where it's just us and just talking.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
I think you could totally do this as a video show. I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
I'll lick your face halfway through. People will be like, what the fuck? What's wrong with these people?
Oh my
I'm
god.
like, what was that?
ASMR.
They'd be like, this is getting kinky real quick.
Oh, I'm just on back. I mean, we're not usually this reserved. This is just us being a guest on a show. Trust me.
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah, you should hear the live Twitter spaces.
Oh, shut up, Joe.
Anyway,
Jump in, I guess.
so what is the most enlightening moment of y'all's lives so far?
I lived a long time, about 10 years, as a person who I wasn't my actual self. I was an addict for about 10 years. And there was one day I woke up and I just remember saying, I can't do this anymore. And from that moment on, I've fought to change my life and become who I wanted to be. And I think that, I don't know, I think that was, I know that was it. And I don't know if I'll have any more as time goes on, but I think that for me right now was the biggest. And that was, it'll be 10 years ago in September.
Yeah, girl.
Well, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very proud of you, because that's a very hard
Thank
thing
you.
to overcome.
Good job.
It's a lot. Yeah. And I have a few friends that still struggle and I try to be there for them. So what about you, babe?
I feel like I can't say mine now.
Why?
It's kind of the same. Like I came from a broken home, and I never really thought I was going to amount to anything, and I lived my life that way, even through having my first two kids. And I was just kind of like a street person, and I was much different than I am now. And I made a decision one day to I wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to be a better person. And I'd say even a year into it, I wasn't sure. It was honestly when I met you. Like I wanted to be with somebody who would understand me, and I found that when I found you.
Stevie gonna make me cry over here.
My favorite part of the show, because it just really gives an insight of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good question.
There
That's a
has
hard
been
question.
a few.
Good question.
Yeah, there's been a few moments where I've had to take a second and I've had to go, oh shit.
Yeah, he's straight up cried a couple times.
I'm not gonna say I cried. I'll just say I choked up. I held it together to that way I could close it out.
It's
So-
very sweet.
I mean, there's been some strong stories so
It
far.
really has, and it's literally my favorite part, because it gives us a little bit more insight on to who we're talking to and like what people can overcome
Yeah.
to be who they are.
I listen to your show. I really do. And it's the thing I like about your show is I might not necessarily be interested in every path that everybody takes, but I'm interested in the story that got me. And I think it's good to know that not just yourself has struggled to get where you are, no matter where you are. So you don't think you're far enough. Just don't give up, because you're going to get there. You're going to get to that point where one day you just don't even realize that you've made it to that spot that you never thought you would be. And it's cool to hear everybody's stories. And I like it. I really enjoy it. You guys have a great show. I really like it.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate it. And I enjoy your show as well. That's why you are on mine.
Yeah, I like your newer episodes.
Yeah, the older ones, honestly, the older ones were on equipment. We were just trying something out. We weren't sure if this was something we were going to stay doing. So we were just kind of...
Or how we wanted to do it.
We were just hacking at it.
Yeah, we were.
So that's why it really did change. We started to take it more serious.
Yeah, it kind of morphed into what it is now. And we could still make some changes and stuff, but I think...
won't listen to the beginning episodes.
Me either.
Yeah.
Nope.
They're weird.
They are weird. It's weird to listen to them.
We're to the point now where we're ready to start making a little upgrades and changes to the show to make it a little bit better.
Yeah. Because we
And
can
I
always
think that's
improve.
with any podcast, though, you know?
Every podcast. I've never heard anybody say my first few episodes were great.
Yeah, and I think that's with anyone. Like, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to start this big thing. And,
Yeah.
and it is a big thing. I mean, not everyone listens to podcasts. And not everyone may be into your podcast. But, you know, there's a starting point for everyone. And I think once you get into it and you really grow to love it,
Yeah.
and that's when it changes with you, you know?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. And that's just it. As I didn't really know what I was getting into when I started listening to your first podcast, because Jonah doesn't really explain to me. He's just like, well, listen to this. And I'm like, okay. What is this about? I mean, like, I couldn't relate a lot to it because I wasn't watching all those shows, or, you know, I wasn't like,
Right.
So I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then he
I'll
finds
be honest, we weren't hardcore fans of like all the shows we covered, so we would have to like kind of look at all the shows out there and be like, okay, well, we can talk about them. So then we would have to sit down and watch a bunch of episodes real quick,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
kind of base our opinion.
And get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like I couldn't really like understand necessarily.
And I
Because
think
I
that's
didn't
why we
have a
like the
point of view.
locations. Yeah. And I think that's why we really enjoy doing the locations and stuff,
Yeah,
because
because even if you've never heard of it,
you still get to learn the history.
learn it.
Right.
And
you
then,
can
you
tell
know,
us about it.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm for
So-
that. I do like that.
stomach.
And that's what the
Yeah,
show's
well, that's
about,
mostly
is
what you'll be
learning.
hearing from us for the majority of it. Location. That's kind of like our sweet spot. Yeah, we
Mhm.
like it.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We've enjoyed having you, and you're always welcome to come back.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it. We had a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
mean, we had to do 3 Zoom sessions to get it all out, but we had a good time.
Oh, hell yeah. If we keep going, we're going to have to do a fourth. Well, that's all the time we have for today. You can find us on Facebook, The Blue Collar Enlightenment Show, and at The BCE Show on Twitter. Give us a follow and remember to message us about what you think about the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Bye.